What's up, music hustlers? I'm Christine Morel, and today we're going to be talking about how independent artist Amanda Palmer raised $1.2 million in a crowdfunding campaign without a record label, without a huge fan base, and without a hit song. Let's go. Amanda Palmer was one of maybe 5 or 6 people at the time on Kickstarter of all time that had raised more than $1 million, and she was the only artist that had done it in a crowdfunding campaign. If you're not familiar with what crowdfunding is the concept of raising money for an objective. In this case, this was for her album and for her tour, by gaining small donations from lots of people. Many of you watching have probably tried to do crowdfunding campaigns. These can be very difficult. These can be hard to raise money at, but she managed to raise $1.2 million. She wasn't a big pop star. She wasn't signed to a record label. She didn't have millions of fans, yet she was able to break records. Some of you are like, how? I can't even make $20. Let's dive in right now. 1, she created a culture and a brand. She called herself the future of music. She was a feminist. She hated record labels and she expressed it. She was very polarizing. Whatever she thought, she just wore it. She expressed it. And if you had a problem with what she had to say, you could just go f yourself. She was a really interesting person. She didn't shave her armpits, yet she shaved her eyebrows off and drew them on. She was all about her art and her creative expression. She expressed that always. It was never just about the dollar. Yet being so expressive, being so creative, putting that first ended up ultimately making her a lot more money anyway. And for her, her fans were number one. They knew it. And she expressed herself in so many ways. Like, she was just so, like, she had been a street performer where she had been this like statue. She would paint herself white and she would stand on the street and just hand people flowers. She would cry. She talks about people, and she didn't speak, she didn't do anything, but she talked about the expression that she gave to each of those people and how the concept of that most people just want to be seen. They want to know that they're heard. They want to exist. And sometimes just by seeing someone, just by allowing them to feel noticed, she said it would make them cry. And she was just a statue standing on a box in the middle of busy streets. She was passionate. She was all about her art. One of the quotes she said, which I love, is, "I've been running my life this way for years, bouncing up and down financially and just making sure I always had enough money to do what I wanted and to do it right. It may be what makes me different. Fundamentally, from a lot of pop artists, I'm also never looking at the monetary bottom line. I'm always looking at the creative bottom line, the happiness index of my life and creative self, not the amount of dough I'll have in the bank at the end of a project." 2, she engaged with her fans. She loved her fans. She gave a shit. They weren't just a paycheck to her. Now, before she launched her crowdfunding campaign, she had already built up this cult following. Although she didn't have like millions of followers, the followers that she did have loved her. She used to be on Twitter every day. She would spend hours and hours talking to her fans, not just about music, finding out about their life, knowing them by name. She took pride in knowing what they were going through in their lives, being able to catch up with them, learning about their families, learning about their hardships. She loved to connect in ways more than just about the music, emotionally, spiritually. While a lot of artists are just focusing on quantity, hey, I need to have millions of fans, I need to have millions of fans, none of it matters if they're not supporting you. And for her, although at the end of the day, she wasn't sitting here going, I'm only making fans so that they can support my music, she had a genuine interest in them, and it showed in everything she did. If you actually read her posts and you read her blogs and you watch her videos, she is one of those most passionate people that I have ever come across in the music business. Like, I've never met her personally, but I've read her books, I've watched her interviews, I watch her on social media, and her social media posts are so deep and she puts so much time into connecting with fans, into being this person that they know they can actually talk to as a human. And I don't know most artists that would do that. And in turn, she created this following, a small following that supported her endlessly. When talking about her fans, she said, "All I needed was some people, enough to make it worth coming back the next day, enough people to help me make rent and put food on the table, enough so I could keep making art." 3, she was transparent and showed her vulnerability. She would actually stay after shows and hang out with fans. She would talk to them about anything that she was going through. I mean, I remember she had been originally signed to a record label before, and she was part of this band called Dresden Dolls. And there's this video of her performing, and she's up there talking about how she hates her record label, and she has a song called Drop Me, and she's singing like, drop me, You know, I hate your corporate ladder, you know, stuff like, it's just the most ridiculous music, but she's expressing herself transparently. Like, it wasn't even a song that's meant to be like a feel-good dance song. She had something to say, and she wasn't afraid to tell her fans about what she was feeling. She wasn't afraid to be transparent and show her vulnerability. She used to jump into audiences and be like, catch me. She would share her feelings about being an imposter. She talks about something called the fraud police in her book, which was something that I love. She just felt like the fraud police were going to come and be like, you're not a real artist. You're not really doing it. She always felt like she had these insecurities as an artist, but she would always share that with her fans. And through that, other people felt like they could share their insecurities. They could feel their, you know, they could talk about their, you know, internal thoughts about not being good enough. That type of connection with people is very, very powerful. And then you throw in music that people love. I mean, that bond that you can create with people is like immeasurable. She would share everything from when she had a miscarriage, you know, she talked about, you know, any stuff about her marriage, about their open marriage, about being a stripper. I mean, she just put it all out on the table. And at her private shows, she was so vulnerable with her fans. She would actually strip naked and let them take markers and write on her body. And it wasn't like this like sexual thing. It wasn't that at all. It was saying, I trust you. We're connected. We're together. We're in this together. And her fans, in turn, she said, were never inappropriate. She said she never, you know, had anything that made her feel uncomfortable. It was so connecting. She had this really wonderful quote that I love, and it goes, from what I've seen, it isn't so much the act of asking that paralyzes us. It's what lies beneath, the fear of being vulnerable, the fear of rejection, the fear of looking needy or weak. But she always allowed people to see her at her weakest points. She talks about the loss of her best friend. I mean, I watch her post now. She still talks about it. It's been years, and how that paralyzed her and how much that hurt her and how much she misses him every day. A lot of people keep this type of information to themselves, but she's just been 100% like, here I am, take me or leave it. She even refers to herself as Amanda fucking Palmer. 4, she hustled constantly. She was performing a ton. She was touring. She was creating music. She was posting content. She was doing music videos. One of my favorite things that she did was on Twitter, she would do this thing called a pop-up show where she would just show up in like parks and just show up at venues and just be like, surprise, I'm doing a show, and just would put it on Twitter. And whether 5 people showed up or 100 people showed up, she didn't care. She gave them the time of her life. It was like she was in an arena every time. She treated each of those fans like they were the only person on the planet. 5, she was in it for the long run. She didn't mind planting seeds where she might not see the fruits of her labor till years down the road. She used this analogy that I love, and I've heard this many times, and I love it. I'm so happy that I get to share this with you guys right now because it's one of my favorites. One of my favorite yoga teachers once told me a story during class. Since ever in China, bamboo farmers have planted baby bamboo shoots deep in the ground, and then for 3 years, nothing happens. But the farmers will work diligently, watering the shoots, spreading hay and manure, waiting patiently, even though nothing is sprouting up. They simply have faith. And then one day the bamboo will shoot up and it'll grow up to 30 feet in a month. Any small sustainable artist fan community works like this. She understood that for you to create a music business, for you to create a successful music career, you had to plant seeds. You had to work hard for years. She was in it for the long run. She wasn't in it for the short term. She wasn't going to say, hey, I'm going to put out a song and if it doesn't work, I quit, and then blame everybody else for your failures. No, she said, I am a bamboo tree, man. I am planting seeds and this may take years. And then you hear about the like overnight successes. No one's ever an overnight success. It's usually years and years and years of perfecting your craft, perfecting your musical instrument, perfecting your singing, perfecting your writing or producing, or perfecting your performance, your live show, getting over your internal, stuff going on that's telling you you're not good enough or that you can't do it. It's never overnight. And if you want to be in the music business and have a successful career, you have to understand that and be willing to make the long-term investment and not just looking for the short-term little things that you get in between. And number 6, my very favorite thing, she wasn't afraid of asking for help. She asked for musicians to come and volunteer to perform at her shows. She asked for fans to give her a place to stay when she was on tour. She even asked for her fans to bring food. Hey man, I'm hurting. I'm a musician here. I'm trying to make it work. I'm trying to provide you guys art. And in the meantime, I got to eat. I need a place to stay. I need musicians if I want to put on a big show for you guys, and hey, can we come together and make this happen? Because she understood that it was a collaborative effort. And I'm going to say that's something that has always worked with me. And I do anywhere from like 200 to 300 shows a year, anywhere from small lounges to big arenas. And the one thing that I always keep in my mind is this is a collaborative effort. This is not about me. Most of all, it's about them. Because at the end of the day, if I go up there and I just play songs that I want to hear and I don't care about my audience and I don't interact with them and I don't engage with them and I don't, get them to sing along and I don't get them to enjoy themselves, then why am I doing this? I've always really felt like this is a group effort. For this to be successful, it has to be. It's just like owning a business and maybe you make like a dirt cookie. And everyone's coming in, they're like, we don't really like this dirt cookie. And you're like, I don't care. I like dirt cookies. Well, do you think your business is going to continue to prosper or prosper at all? Probably not, because you want to think about your fans. You want to think about your followers. You want to think about those concert goers. What do they want from me? What can I give them? She gave her fans this amazing creative experience, her attention. She gave them her all. And in exchange, she asked them to help her. And in the end, when she asked them to help her with her Kickstarter campaign, she broke records. This was why she broke records. She was not afraid to ask, and she raised $1.2 million on Kickstarter as an independent artist. And so many of you are afraid of asking. You're afraid of how it's going to make you vulnerable. You're afraid of how it's going to make you weak. You're afraid of how it's going to make you look. Get over it. She had this really amazing quote where she said, "There's really no honor in proving that you can carry the entire load on your shoulders. And it's lonely." And one thing that I really talk about a lot when it comes to these types of things is imagine your favorite artist, right? I love Lauryn Hill. When I buy a ticket to go see her perform, I never think that I'm like giving her some sort of charity. Instead, I think I'm going to go see one of my favorite artists in person. Wow, like I'm so excited. I'm so excited for what I'm getting out of it, right? And that as you as an artist, that's a mentality that you should keep constantly in your mind. What are they getting out of it? Because just me saying, "Oh, I'm just here," you should be glad that you're my friend. Having that mentality is not going to get you anywhere. You should be glad that you're following me on Instagram. Can you succeed having that mentality? Sure you could, but you could succeed a lot more if you put your fans first. Now let's talk about the facts about her campaign. She raised $1.2 million from a little less than 25,000 fans. So when you think about $1.2 million, how many fans do you have to have? A lot of people might say you have to have millions of fans. She did it with less than 25,000 people. She sold anything from downloads for $1 to, vinyls, to CDs. She had packages of like $125 for a vinyl, a CD, and a t-shirt. She sold private shows. She sold her artwork. She got really creative, guys. She was a hustler. She even took turntables and painted them and put that on there. Like she was like not afraid to put in the work and not afraid to create some sort of experience for her fans. And when I think about this, I think, man, like if one of my favorite artists created, one of my other favorite artists is Amy Winehouse. If she had painted like on one of her records, like if I just knew it was a custom painting that she created, that would have been super. I'd have that framed, I'd have it on my wall. And that's the type of creativity that you can get into. And when I talk about like, you're not really thinking about how, hey, I'm giving them charity for this album. You're thinking, I'm getting something really amazing about this. This is why I talk about don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to put those items up for sale. Don't be afraid to share on if you plan on doing a crowdfunding campaign, or if you have an online store, that you're sharing your homemade jewelry, or maybe the rosewater perfume that you made, or maybe you're making hats, or maybe you're making shirts. Because the real truth is you're creating an experience for your fans, and your fans want that from you. If they like you, they're not thinking that they're doing charity for you. They're thinking that they're getting an experience. They like you. They're excited to get that t-shirt. They're excited to get those handwritten lyrics, or whatever you've put on your online store, whatever you've put on your crowdfunding campaign. So don't be afraid to ask. She was also very transparent with where all the money was going. Something that I liked was that she even listed that $250,000 was going to paying off debt. And her fans were happy about it, because think about this. Some of you might think, hey, this is kind of a lot for me to ask for that, but this is the truth. If you are working to pay off debt, you can't create music, right? If you have to go get a regular job. So your fans go, well, we want music from her or him. We want them to go on tour. We want them to show up in my city. We want their new album. And they're a human. They have bills just like you and I do. So we need to support this person so that they can create music for us, because they're fans of you. They want your songs. They want to be listening to you. They want to be watching your music videos. They want your album, and they're not afraid to support you and to buy things that you have for sale, or buy tickets, or support your crowdfunding campaign, so that you can provide that experience for them. So she broke it down. I mean, she said, hey, $250,000 to debt. She said $100,000 to shoot the music videos, $80,000 to create these art books so I could send them out. $75,000 to $100,000 is going to, Kickstarter and the credit card company for them to actually even put the transactions through. She said $30,000 for 100 copies of, these books. And, and she just got really specific with what it was going to cost. And at the end of all this, she let them know that she was going to pocket about $100,000. This is awesome for her. She created like 5 music videos, an album. She went on tour. She did all kinds of really cool stuff, created all these amazing experiences for all her fans. She got to release her art in the way she wanted to independently and still pocketed $100,000 for herself. Amanda Palmer is just the perfect example of somebody who has mastered the business part of it, but also caring about your fans and actually just kind of being a really cool human being. Fast forward to now, Amanda Palmer now has a Patreon account, which is a membership platform online where she has 15,000 contributors a month out of 15,000 fans, okay? Not millions of roaring fans and fame and all this. Out of 15,000 fans, they contribute enough to where she makes $1 million a year. Go Amanda Palmer. On a last note, I do recommend that if you found her story interesting, you're going to find her even way more interesting when you read her book, The Art of Asking. I literally cry 50 times. I've read that book a few times. I've cried every single time over and over and over again. She is one of the most passionate, beautiful people as an artist, and her mind and her spirit is just absolutely amazing. Look, I'm like literally getting goosebumps as I'm talking about her. Like, she's really, really freaking awesome. So check out the book. I'm going to leave you with one thing that she said that is just so powerful. She said, there's no correct path to becoming a real artist. You might think that you'll gain legitimacy by going to art school, getting published, getting signed to a record label, but it's all bullshit and it's all in your head. You're an artist when you say you are, and you're a good artist when you make somebody else experience or feel something deep or unexpected. Check her out. Check out The Art of Asking. If you'd like to see how you can build your independent music career and get your music out there, check the links below. I'm Christine Morel, and I will see you on the next one.